Brother to brother to a brother into a brother. Brother to a brother and then another.
The show normally comes out of Dallas, but we're live in Buffalo. Our topic, we are continuing our conversation on gentrification. Last week we talked about gentrification, and we had a stimulating conversation, a lot of comments. We want to definitely say thanks and appreciation to everybody who commented last week, and really that's what the show is about. It's about creating stimulating conversation to lead to a definite motion and action that's going to better our community. So we appreciate that. Definitely continue to send your comments in. Matter of fact, you can come on out to the CAO Center on, on Fillmore Avenue at the corner of Goodell. Is it?
No, this is the Rocky Green Center.
Rocky Green Center on Fillmore. You can tell I'm not from Buffalo. Definitely, we invite you out. Live studio audience. You can come in and participate and even be a part of the show itself. Last week we had Sam Rafford and Mr. Duncan Kirkwood. Duncan Kirkwood has returned, and as promised, we said that in the Brother to Brother show, the females are invited too. The sisters are invited too. And Sister Shaniqua Simmons has taken us up on that offer. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Great. I'm doing wonderful, I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am. So last week, the show was very stimulating. We talked about some of the things that were taking place in Buffalo surrounding gentrification, not only in Buffalo but nationwide. And a lot of people had a lot of great comments concerning what the who's responsible, what we could do as a people. First of all, let me say happy birthday to your wife.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Because if you don't say it, you might be in trouble.
Right. Happy birthday, babe.
Right.
We've been married, just going on our second year, been together for years since high school, and so today's her birthday. So been up all morning dropping off gifts, wrapping stuff, making it all special for her. So I appreciate you taking that time. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt, man. If we're not doing family, we're not doing nothing, man.
That's right.
Regardless of what we talk about on the show, politically, community-wise, your community and your nation looks like your home, and your home looks like your community and your nation.
Yes.
So if they reflect one another, then we will have the necessary emotional investment in our community to do what we need to do. But if we look at our home as different from our community, and that ain't really me, that's them people over there, then we have the condition that we have now. So the restoration of our homes as a model for our community is necessary. So we will always take time out to recognize what's important, which is family. Yeah. Very interesting. Ms. Simmons had a comment last week on the show that we did last week, and I thought it was a necessary comment myself, because when we talk about gentrification, we talk about us not being victims. We also have to realize that some people are victimized not because of anything that they're doing or not doing, just because people are seeking to victimize them and benefit off of them not knowing. And so, with that being the case, we can't leave one without the other. We can't talk about, well, look, man, what we need to do without talking about what somebody else is doing to us. Both of them are empowering, and both of them are necessary. So with that, that's just my take on it, and so what we wanted to do on this show is bring a little bit of that into light and talk about real solutions going forward in the system, because I know you ran for mayor.
Yeah.
Right? So that's and you ran for legislature. So what you have here, even though we're talking about systematic corruption, we're also talking about people who see it necessary to go into the same system to make change. So you may see corruption on the inside, but then what are the vision that y'all are seeing that makes you think that you could go into that system and make a change in our community, knowing that systematically, according to your comment, as well as others around the country, that system is corrupt.
Right. Well, when you understand gentrification, you understand that it's policy driven.
Okay.
So to talk about just the symptoms of gentrification without addressing the policies that have led us here is a very one-sided conversation where the victims are victimizing themselves. And everybody wants to change the subject when we talk about gentrification. and say, well, these are the things that we need to do as a community. But you have to understand everything that we are able to do as a community is dictated by policy. So to have a conversation without addressing the policy, to me, it's feeding into the propaganda that keeps us in this condition.
So I think that Ms. Simmons is correct that things don't just magically happen. Right. Developers just don't show up one day and they're like, you know what, this would be a good spot to make $8 million. They're given incentives. Some people ask them to come in a lot of times. A lot of times they see the land is fertile, or they create a situation where, it's not an accident. So I subscribe to that same thinking. However, I believe that policies can be changed. And so when I look at gentrification or any issue, I don't look at it in the context of whose fault is it. Right? Now, that's important to identify. Like, it's somebody's fault. There's an elected official or a group of elected officials that make decisions and make policies. But I look at what can I personally do to affect the change of that policy. If I don't like a policy, I can change it. Laws can be changed. Right? There's a way to change laws, and there's a way to change lawmakers. And so, the way I kind of, subscribe to is I have a stake in fixing my current reality if I don't like it. Right. And so, there's election coming up in 2019. If we don't like the policies, we either need to, and before then, make new policies and push them through, advocate for them, or get new lawmakers and push them through and advocate for them and fundraise for them. So I think that I think that Ms. Simmons is correct in that it's a policy-driven issue, but I want to say yes, and we can change the policies. We have the ability to do that. And we've seen that with what's going on with marijuana, with the decriminalization of marijuana, with the school. I mean, just any issue, there has been traction on it across the country, across the state. But it don't just happen. It's not easy work. It's hard work. It's not like, the lawmakers are like, well, that's a good idea. Let me change my whole strategy on something. That's not how it happens. But I think that it's important to know that we can't just say, here's a problem, you're the problem, and then expect it to change. Like, we've got to also have the plan of, here is a replacement policy, or here is how we get to what we want. Or if you're not moving in the way we want you to move, we're going to move you out. Right. So I'm going to get to the action plan. So right. I'm glad that today we're talking about solutions.
and that's exactly what the show is designed to do. I mean, again, I'm looking at two people who have decided to go into the system. Me personally, that's not I just put it like this, that's not how I see it. Last week, Sam talked about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That is a total, complete, and separate system that's dictated not only, that has nothing to do with policy, but because of the self-controlled environment, we don't break laws because we manage and control who we are. So that takes the control out of somebody else's hands when you are morally upstanding. And it gives you, and you protect your own community. And it gives you the right that if somebody comes in to protect it because you built it and you did it. That's why I subscribe. And so when she came and said, well, look, when Khalil said she's running for mayor, I was like, I thought about Barack Obama and how I felt like he was neutralized when he went in office. Had he stayed in the community based on, some of the allegiances and things he had, we probably was looking at the next Martin Luther King, in my humble estimation. But once he went into that, he had a job to do. He was neutralized by so I don't subscribe to the same thinking that y'all have in terms of going in. So I would like to know, again, we've seen police officers, we've seen people go to trial just to go home. But we've seen the man that go across the street to steal a Snickers go to jail for 4 years. So if we're talking about systematic change, how does that happen? You're not going to take disenfranchised people and make them believe in that system. If you are, what's the time frame and what's the realistic projection that we can have to have quality of life that's going to affect this lifetime? Yeah. Not, we did the best we can and we just going to hand it to our children.
Well, we have to. I have to disagree. We have to identify what the problem is and who the problem is. Because at the end of the day, when we identify who the problem is and what the solutions are and things of that nature, you will see that a lot of solutions have been put forth. But when policymakers are not on the same page as the people that they represent, then you're not going to get that change. That's why I ran for mayor. I didn't run for mayor because it was simply an aspiration of mine, because it was not. I ran for mayor because time and time again, we the people, and it's very hard to get we the people on the same page.
Right.
And when we the people continue to get on the same page and continue to go before the same body of individuals and are ignored,
Right.
then I'm not going to subscribe to we just need to work on solutions. The solutions is identifying these policymakers who have made a career of providing misinformation
That we pay for.
Disinformation, and they have their hands in the problems as well as in the solutions. They're these policymakers, they're on these boards, they're tied into these social organizations, and everybody is walking around as if this level of corruption doesn't exist. And I say it's corruption because this is supposed to be a system that contains checks and balances. When you have the people who are supposed to be providing the checks and balances all on the same page, and no matter what page we turn, we're in the same book and we're coming to the same conclusions, then we have to start identifying who the people are that are in the position that are making these policies, because at the end of the day, when you break it down to the community,
Right.
the conditions that we are in, and who has been behind these policies that have placed us in the condition, then the community can be in a position to make that change. But our community is ignorant, and we're ignorant because we are purposely misled. We are misled by policymakers, by these social organizations, and by these agencies, because they all have a vested interest. They all have different motivations, and at the end of the day, it's not us. So I'm not going to walk around and be ignorant to who is doing what. And I'm sorry.
And I'm glad you said that. So
you are on the wrong side of the facts,
Right.
and the truth and the things that are hurting the community, then you're going to have to answer for that. That's not my problem. That's not the community's problem. It needs to fall back on the people who are creating the
I'm glad you
conditions.
said that. Me and Amar Rashid with Degree Out Nation, we always ask the question, who is the community, who is the us, and who is the we? You see what I'm saying? When you say the community, I've been looking for this organized voice that challenges the system, that says, you know what, we the people not standing for this no more. Who are these people? Who are we talking about? Because you got a group of people in the community, you got a group of people making policy, you got a group of people that's co-signing on the policy, and you got a group of people that's getting paid on the policy. You got this whole bureaucracy of individuals who are trying to control people. But the people that are looking to control and stand up for themselves, who are those people? Because in my humble, the way I look at it, I got people that's in legislation right now. I got people that's in office. When we say we the people, are we inclusive of our people that are there? Or how do we make this separation? That's my question. How do we separate the wolves, the hens, the sheep? What are we talking about here?
So, so many, you said, that's a very wide and big question. So when you do your level,
hold on, because like you said, I think people do want to fight, right? Ain't nobody walking around here just going to do what the hell you want to do to me. But everyday survival and trying to get out here and make ends meet, man. So these are the people that are distracted and being manipulated, and don't get it twisted. We're not separated from that because we don't know anything. We are the people. We don't know everything, brother. We are the people.
True.
But as we wake up, how do we, again, identify the we and make moves on this corruption?
So when you did your hierarchy, right, you said it was the community people down here, lawmakers, policymakers, people co-sign it, people who get paid off of it, right? So let's just stick to that hierarchy, right?
Okay.
At the bottom where you said here's the community, that's not one element. Right, so there are lots of multifaceted parts of our community, right? So, for example, the block club leaders, right? A lot of their issues are not the same as people who are education activists, right? Or who are anti-gentrification activists. There are pockets. You see what I'm saying? It's like pockets of sections of our community that care about different issues, right? So in your neighborhood, gentrification might be the number one problem. Right, seniors are being displaced in your community, and you got to stop it. In another neighborhood, it could be PCBs and poison in the soil. Right, in another neighborhood, all the kids might be failing out of school, so now they're committing crimes in your neighborhood. Right, so there are these different parts. So there's not this one kind of collective we. So to answer how do we all get on one voice, I don't think that ever happens. I think that we can get enough people to make changes in different people's lanes. We got to stop. We have to get to the point where if my number one issue that I care about is the education of black children,
right?
But your number one issue is PCBs and environmental justice, and your number one issue is fighting gentrification on all levels, right? I need for you to still support me, even though my number one issue isn't your number one issue. Not that, I'm just part of the problem or whatever, or because I don't care about your issue as much. No, but I then need to turn, and when you lead on this issue, I get with you and say, okay, this is their issue. I'm just in the crowd clapping. I'm just showing up for the rallies. Everybody can take leads in their different areas, and we support each other, but we don't do that. What we have is, if my group is supporting this issue, we're trying to educate black kids, we're trying to fight against a system of oppression in our school system, right, that's run by suburban white women, okay, then I must not care enough about your issue, which is, whatever it is, and so therefore I must be a sellout. And so we do that type of division, and so we're never getting that, we never like making a fist, we always just separate fingers trying to make noise, so we never really making that.
But the question is, why do we think that is?
Well, see, this is why I think it is, because you have people in these communities that don't know what's going on and still want to help. And what we're seeing is these organizations that you have to look at who's funding these organizations. They're coming in and they're taking the voice of the people. The people still don't have a voice. There aren't any community organizations because the community is always left out, because at the end of the day, poverty has now become big business. So poverty is never going to be solved because everybody is getting their cut. The only people who are always left out is the community. No one is coming into the community asking the community what your issues are and organizing the community. And if we all realize that we're one community.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. So the organizations that are being built are being funded on behalf of the community, but not inclusive
of the community.
Meaning they're not formed from the community.
Right.
They're formed around the community, thinking that they know what's best for the community.
Right, and then you have the community that subscribes to that, and that's where the community gets lost. And the prime example is the March on Washington, and this is why we cannot allow people to come into our community and tell us what the answers are, because the March on Community was for the March on Washington was for equality.
Right.
We left with integration. Those are two separately distinct things, but that's what happens when the community has no voice, when people come into the community and organize the community. I see lots of community organizations that pop up. They have all this money and they have all this funding
and agendas,
and behind that money is an agenda. So although the community might be working on their specific issues, none of the community activists, they never come together. When there was, prime example, Waddell Davis, there was not one organization that should not have been on key with him, from the school teachers, from the environmentalists, from the gentrification, because it was very symbolic of a lot of things, of stop and frisk, and just a lot of things. They didn't come out because the powers that be are funding these organizations, so they only do so much good. Because if they were truly about organizing the community, then the community would be part of the decision makers that are on their board.
So let me do this, brother to brother. Buffalo, New York, we're doing this right now. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you leave your comments, be a part of the conversation. As you can see, it's getting started. It's a healthy conversation, and every Wednesday we're going to do this at 1 o'clock Eastern time. I say Eastern, I always get, somebody tell me that's not how I say it. So 1 o'clock in the East. Well, however that corresponds with you around the country, make sure you get in the conversation and be a part of this, because this is really. What I'm saying to you now is really in tune with what we are trying to identify when we say community. When somebody comes into the community, who do they speak to?
So
what happens?
Yeah,
who is this community that's being preyed upon? What's that organized voice? Okay,
so let me backtrack to something Ms. Simmons said. She talked about the Waddell Davis, right? Tragedy. That's a good example. So right there, she talked about who should have been there, right? And because they weren't there, the appearance is that those powers that be that control those organizations only let them, do so much community work, and that is real community work. That's real tragedy, and it ain't nobody making money off of it. It's just justice, and so some people must not really support that if they weren't there. That is the logic that keeps us divided, in my opinion. And so, yes, I would have liked to see everybody there.
Right.
But because you're not there doesn't mean you don't care.
But
and so that inference, let me finish my thought. That inference is not constructive towards the goal we're trying to get to. Because for me, like I said, my thing is education, right? And whether it be more black teachers, whether it be making teachers more accountable, making sure our teachers union doesn't invest in private prisons here in New York, which they do, right? Whether it's whatever, that's my issue. So when I say we having something to stop this in the school system, or we're gonna make sure we have bus aids on every bus so our kids are safe being transported to school and back, if you're not there, that don't mean you don't care about our kids. You see what I'm saying? It's that same logic. Like, I think that's important. I think that's very important. But if you ain't there, that don't mean, Taniqua don't care about our kids. She must be, you know what I'm saying? And it's like that logic is flawed.
Well, wait a minute. The fundamental premise that you just mentioned earlier, because you talked about the hierarchy, right? Mm-hmm. Was different organizations working on different issues. And they need to come out and support each other, even though they're working on different issues. But if you don't see them, that doesn't mean that they don't care. Well, I'm talking about a community who needs to see these organizations. Are we denying that these organizations have set agendas that they have to
No,
do?
not at all. So listen, I work for a nonprofit.
But that's not the point.
Okay, so
what I'm saying is, if we're not denying that they have separate agendas that they have to work on, can't you see the logic as to the reason why they're not there, or the reason why they're not united?
No, because they're still a person. You're still a person. They don't own you because you work for an organization.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me rephrase that.
They don't own me. So I can't speak for everybody, because I do what I want. I go for whatever cause I want. So in my mind, I see other people doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the logic that I have. Like, you might work for this. This is your 9 to 5 for environmental justice. But if somebody gets shot on the street and you want to go stand up for that family or that community, then I don't think your organization would have a problem. But I don't know every organization and how they operate.
But just like she said, if somebody's shot on the street, we're looking for these organizations. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute, hold on. But if you're looking at chronic, every 26 to 28 hours, a black and Hispanic unarmed is killed by police officers. Where are these organizations? Who is really for the community? That's the question.
Right.
They're not in just a community organization and really being for the community.
Yeah, but
it's a dual question.
You said every 26 to 28 hours, right?
Right.
So that means that you're saying, if you are in any organization, your main priority must be what we think your priority should be.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Right, because the timing of that, you don't have enough time to fight every cause.
But that's not what I'm saying.
To support every...
Can I break this down? This, and let me clarify what I meant by that. Wardell Davis, we have all these anti-violence groups that get all this funding, and they're very selective in what they show up for. And I feel like this. If you're a community organization, you are for the community. I'm not just going to be for you when it comes down to my particular subject. I'm here so that our kids I have better education. So that's all I'm going to focus on. If I'm for the education of kids, then I got to be for their life, right? I have to be for justice. And all I'm saying is that these organizations are not really for the community, because if they were, then they would be there.
They would be at everything.
I'm not saying that you have to be at everything, but I'm saying that I can put out a flyer and say, our organization endorses this and we recommend that people go. I mean, there should be a more concerted effort by these community organizations to represent the community. I mean, the community is full of people. The community isn't issues and causes. It's real life people. Real life blood is spilled out on the streets. So I'm sorry. You're not going to organize me when it's to your benefit. Don't come here and tell me that, we're going to rally around this. When we over here, we're hurting. So maybe we need you to rally around us, so that we can in turn rally around your issue. When you have all of these community organizations and you're just not don't just come here when it's beneficial to you.
Yeah, listen.
And that's what a lot of community organizations do. And that doesn't, and I was not speaking necessarily to you. I'm just
I didn't take it like that. No, I didn't take it like that at all, even a little bit.
Listen, I don't.
Because I know Miss Simmons.
I'm a man.
I know that her heart is truly in the community.
No,
I
but
didn't
you
take
say
it like that.
and I'm not. I don't think this is a conversation about I think this is more a conversation about we.
And so, in that we conversation, I think
we're trying to identify this we. And
right,
that's how we started this.
So I am a community activist and I work in a nonprofit. Okay, so I'm wearing both of those hats. So in my nonprofit, we don't got nothing to do with people getting killed, environmental justice, fighting poverty, anti-solitary confinement. We don't got nothing, but I still involve myself with those. Let me just finish my thought. So when I say we, that's the we I'm coming from. It's my organization, but also the work that I do and the people who have put their trust in me. What we should do better is involve each other in those fights. So if there's an issue, we think that if we put out a flyer or put something in the Challenger or social media or whatever, that, I put it out there, everybody didn't come, why are they not supporting this cause? We need to do the legwork of canvassing, just like, we knock on doors. You ran for office, you know what it is, knocking on doors, making those hundreds of phone calls. We need to have that type of fervor when we're trying to galvanize and bring other people to the conversation. When we do events, we should never say, this is put on by, Negro Improvement Association, and that's it, right? We got a really important event, and it's only one name on it. No, it should be Negro Improvement Association, this community, Winslow Block Club, this organization, Taniqua Simmons, Griot Nation. It should be that. We got to work to do that. It don't just happen.
At the Anti-Gentrification Summit, there were 7 organizations that I identified that were a part of that. But the point that I'm making is, with that, is that if the agendas are being ran by the company, in other words, if these companies show up and they have agendas that are dictated by funding and different things, anti-gentrification don't get addressed on behalf of the people. It just gets addressed on behalf of the organization. And that's what we're trying to, I think that's the conversation. Go ahead.
All right, to that point, from the Facebook world, Tori Samaya Urban says, I believe everyone should find their passion and get involved on some level. Then support others in their passion cause when you can and how you can. The problem is most of us are not involved with any cause. So if anybody wants to respond to that, you can, but I just wanted to infuse that into what you all were just talking about.
It's only one cause.
In
my estimation, it's only one cause.
It's only one.
And because we've been made to be divided by separate agendas and organizations, that in and of itself is the issue. It's not that we are not fighting the fight. We've allowed ourselves to be divided. And the Griot Nation has been, again, shameless plug, has been dedicated to bringing everybody to the table. Not for the purpose of putting nobody on blast, but man, there is a real suffering that's happening. And all of us, regardless of what your issue is, if you fight in education, you affected by murder in the street.
Absolutely.
If you fighting this fight, it's all one thing.
Yeah,
so the question is, how do we develop the agenda that really says that these are our priorities, and any organization, any government official, whoever that is, has to answer to what the community deems to be important, or they can't get that.
So that's
the question.
We have to educate people. So first of all, I want to be clear. I agree with that. That premise, that logic, I'm with you. So I met with a group of pastors. I'll give you an example the other day, and they were asked by another group, a nonprofit, asked this group of pastors to come partner with them and come to their meeting and stuff, right? So I'm listening to them, and I'm thinking to myself, grant metrics. That's a grant metrics, right? Engage in black faith leaders. On any nonprofit, that's going to be one of the metrics that their funders want to see, that you engage in black clergy. That's just 9 out of 10 of them going to say that. So I told the pastors, I said, you go, and when you sign the sign-in sheet, you just help them get closer to their goal and help them get their re-up for funding, right? Because that's, funders say, you got 20 black pastors? Y'all doing great work out there. So I told the pastors, before you sign in, tell them what your goals are as a group of Baptist of ministers, and to ask them to see what they're going to commit to support your goals. Those ministers had never even processed the idea that they could do that, or that's why they have to sign in every time they go somewhere, or that's why it's so important. And all of a sudden, it was just like instant aha moment, like, we're trying to do this, we're trying to do this. And so I just say we have to continue to each one teach two, because Negroes don't listen. So you have to teach 2 or 3.
Wait. See, again, I disagree with that. I think there's a lack of faith in the listening skill of a Negro. Okay. And see, and in my mind, people lose faith in the people. And this is how this narrative changes. They believe that somebody else needs to control the people that can't control themselves.
And that goes back to the original question about how could somebody like Taniqua or somebody like me go into this system and not become part of the system, but transform the system. You know, that has been out there for decades. Like,
it needs to be torn down. Martha Hill said, we don't need to change the system, we need to break it.
Because the system works, right? For the people it's supposed to work for.
Exactly. And it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do for the people who built it. But I want to say this. Let's talk about, if I go get a job at Walmart, that's my 9 to 5. I see Taniqua on the street, she's like, yo, somebody got killed. Let's go over here and handle this. I'm like, I got you. I'm taking off from work tomorrow, it's home. But I'm feeding my family. How do we knock people who are in community organizations feeding their families, right? Fighting these agendas like education, anti-gentrification, all these different things. But at the same time, but at the same time, we're saying they're not there for the community. This is my job. Right? And I'm taking a job that I feel like is close to my heart because this is an issue that I feel like I want to get behind and I can get paid doing it.
But it's yes and. So it's yes, that we shouldn't knock somebody for having a job, but yes, they should have a job and provide for their family. And if they say they care about our people, they should go above and beyond to care about our people. And that might mean walking with her because somebody just got killed. It might mean signing a petition online. It might mean posting something on Twitter. It has different looks.
When the organization goes away, they're hiring you. Do you go away? What happens in that moment when they say, you know what, we're switching the agenda. We're doing this. We're moving out of town. Can you come? Can you move? Everybody has to survive. And I'm not sitting there saying if you're a part of one of these organizations that's dividing the community up, because I believe they are. Don't get it twisted. Because if you really want to see what's happening with the community, you don't go to no damn organization. You go to the community.
Exactly.
And so with that being the case, don't get it twisted. I do think that is an issue. Because all you got to do is trace the funding. Who funds it? And that's going to set the agenda. You're not going to get around that. The people are not going to say, well, no, we're going to do our own thing inside of somebody else setting the agenda and paying them for it. It don't work like that. So we already know that that's a part of the issue. But the question is, how the hell am I going to knock somebody for feeding their family? But when we make that distinct separation of who the community is, and we get serious about that, then we run it, and then we say, well, we're not gonna allow these organizations to come in, and then we begin to move. And if the organization says, you know what, I can contribute to that, and we have our guidelines set up. Okay, if you want to give funding, whatever you want to do, but your agenda is not gonna mix, blend, integrate, wash down, or assimilate into what we're doing.
And that's what
Somebody has to keep the integrity of the mission intact, regardless if it's government, community organization, churches, I don't give a damn who they are, and keep that agenda and use whatever resources that's necessary so that we achieve this goal. Brother to brother, man, Buffalo, make sure y'all stay tuned. Keep us on lock, man. Griot Nation, hold on. Facebook.com/Griot Nation Network is where you can find the show. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, whatever y'all want to do, brother to brother, /brother to brother. It's on the brother to brother page on Facebook, man. Get involved in the conversation. I'm trying to find out who the hell this community is. How do we organize this community? Who's running the agenda for the community? What's happening right now?
Let me go. I'm sorry.
Let's go back to the anti-gentrification.
Yes.
And a lot of although there were various organizations, most of them had the same funding source. A lot of them have a lot of same board members, a lot of same affiliates. I mean, so that coalition wasn't for the people. See, the problem is that the people, poverty is big business. Poverty is how these organizations and people that work for them feed their families. So at the end of the day, the money is only going to allow that movement to be so effective. And I believe the community is always left out, even with these organizations, because they come and they provide us with the solution. Instead of us talking about the dismantling of low-income housing, we're talking about inclusionary zoning. So these organizations, and when the community is left out and the community has no voice, these organizations become a part of the problem, because everybody who's coming up with the solution are not the people living in these neighborhoods. So because inclusionary zoning sounds like it's a good thing for the situation, because the people who have created the situation have said that this is the solution that we should be talking about, that's what we're talking about. When the community is talking about, we have no place to live, we're being forced and moved out to Jamestown, that's not going, I think that's a distraction, and it's a distraction that is paid for. It's a distraction that keeps the community from not even wanting to participate in these organizations, because they are not talking about the solutions that the community needs. They're talking about the solutions that they want to present.
I'm trying to find out who this ghost community is. I'm still trying to get down to the essence as to who the hell this we in this community is, and how how do I be a part of a community that's challenging all this.
You have to be a part of grassroots organization. You need to get with your neighbors, and you and your neighbors need to discuss what the solutions that you need, and we need to start organizations within ourselves, and we need to grow those organizations, because no matter what your issue is, they all intersect. That's why it's all one community.
Right.
And nobody wants to talk about that, because then people have to be held accountable for their actions and their inactions, because at the end of the day, stopping the violence is all about everything.
That's right.
It's all about education. It's all about economic growth and development. It's all about opportunities. It's all about everything. So to me, the community is all the people who at this point are sitting there suffering. It's the community truly suffers through lack of a voice, through lack of knowledge, through lack of information, and you have all these organizations and nobody is truly educating the people. And that's why the people are left out, because these organizations and politicians want people to follow them. They don't want to educate the people, because they only want to educate the people about what their mission is. Our mission is, this is what our mission is, and this is what we've determined the solution to be. So that's as far as the education goes for the community. Where I feel like this, if we educate the community about what the problem is, who the problems are, and what we need to do, then the community can get on one page, because the community will be able to see that all of this is one. And we are the power. Nobody is teaching us empowerment. They're teaching us to follow.
That's right.
And that's what the problem is, and that is what the problem will always be. That's why everybody wants to kill a messenger, because the message will kill them.
Right.
And that's all I got to say about that.
All right, we got a Facebook comment. Tori Samaya Irvin says, maybe the way could be a coalition of organizations working together. Of course, organizations that have boards that are truly representatives of the community and from the community.
A coalition of organizations. Again, appreciate your comment. What's it, Tori?
Tori.
Yes, appreciate your comment, Tori. I think we tried that. I think that's what we're talking about. If there's a community organization, that has to be defined. That we need to know what that is. And if the community is saying this is our organization, then this is our organization. But the thing about it, the community itself is the organization.
Yes.
And this is what we need to figure out, the agenda to organize on, so that the community then can dictate policy.
Right.
The community then can dictate, what organization they want to form to push their agendas and things of that nature. But anytime, there was never a consent to be governed. There was never a consent to be policed. Nobody gave consent to this. You were born into this. So the automatic assumption is this is just the way it is. And so we allow preset authority to dictate our lives rather than I'm saying, look, I'm my own authority. Who with me? Right. Now, that's the organization you want, because it comes from people within empowering themselves to say, we are our own progenitors of our destiny. We are taking charge of this, whatever that looks like. And if you get in our way, then we gonna deal with you. Now, the myth is that we then get neutralized because that's too radical. And so we change the narrative by saying, no, we're going out ahead of this with our own propaganda, telling you that the whole mission of the Black Panthers was not to attack police officers. It was to empower people to stop them from being attacked.
Right.
Which is two different things. But these people were not educated. They were not eating right. It was a lot. So they had to go start doing all this. They didn't go form organizations.
Right.
They went to the people and got them out at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning.
You said the Black Panthers?
The Black Panthers.
That is an organization.
But what I'm saying to you is, but it was an organization of the people.
It was all the people.
What I'm saying to you is, they knocked on doors, brought people out, they worked them out, they got food, they got programs started, and it started from within the needs of the people. And then the powers that be had to come say, you know what? This wasn't no statistic-driven government organization who looking at poverty and crime is this and that. Let me design an agenda in the organization to attack this with these certain. No. These were people that said, you know what? We are tired of being controlled by other people, regardless of what that may look like.
Right.
And we're going to form organizations that establish the pride in people that will make them fight for themselves.
Right.
Now, the purpose of me bringing that up is that once you stand up and do that, then propaganda radicalizes you. That's the attack. Like they didn't turn around and say, you know what, they racist, they this, they that, they this, and so other people that look like you then say, I don't want to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. So the whole key is when we're starting with the people and we're starting with the community and we're truly doing that, it will eliminate 85% of your problems just by empowering people to empower themselves.
Right.
Not give them an agenda.
Right.
Just asking them, what's going on with you? Okay, then, so this is how you handle that. XYZ, you want to get with me and go do XYZ. Not by saying, look, we realize this knock, crime in your neighborhood is this, and that. Come join us down here at so-and-so.
Right.
And then the person look and say, okay, then I'll come listen to you. Then when they get there, come to find out you got banners, the NAACP awards is being sponsored by Verizon. Come on, man. By Verizon? You already know what and then the NAACP then turns around and come out and says, well, black people need to vote for whatever the internet inclusion bill or whatever that was. So they used NAACP around a civil rights organization to galvanize them toward a corporate agenda. And so the people on the inside of these communities we have to have centers where the voices can be heard, that energy can be taken, it can be organized by them,
right.
And then they move according to their dollars. Because guess what? Everybody eating off the money they paying anyway.
Yeah,
that's what I was in terms of.
This is again. Griot Nation. I forgot because we getting into it. This is brother to brother. Facebook.com/brother to brother. You can check us 1 p.m. every Wednesday. We live at the CAO Center on Fillmore. Come out, be a part of the conversation. Come out, be a part of the audience. Look, we are not talking to the people. We're talking as the people. It's critical that we understand what this format is for. This is for people who are the people to be able to talk. And guess what? Just because you're in office don't mean you ain't the people. You still the people. We're just asking you to come down and join the different levels because you're still our people. That's why I say when we start identifying our people, some people have went into office to fight the good fight. Don't get it twisted. Nobody went in and said, you know what, I'm going to go in so I can manipulate people. They went in trying to fight the good fight. We're trying to ask the community to hold them accountable and for them to rejoin the community so we can move together. Yes, sir.
All right. First of all, Rashad Perry says respect. Tori makes another comment. Tori Samaya says, okay, so could one of you three take up the mantle to make this organization you are speaking of? I would love to see that and be involved.
I'm calling Griot Nation at 716-994-3877. Let's have a conversation.
Okay, well,
number again?
716-994-3877. That's my personal number, which I don't normally do. But get at us. Griot Nation has been moving in Buffalo from the radio for 6 years running and galvanizing people. Now we on the ground. We would love to have a conversation. The only conversation is bringing people together, organizing them around community issues, and moving forward as a community, not as a government organization.
Right. I would like to just sort of interject. We have a meeting this Friday from 6 to 8 at the Rafi Green Center. Is the Buffalo United Community Coalition, and it's based around the community. And we don't need to create more organizations. We need to create a more united community. And those are two distinct things. And we have enough organizations. We don't have enough unity within the community because we're so divided. And I think that and what you were saying about we, the people, everything has to start with we the people. And when we look at these organizations, they don't consists of we the people. And when we have we the people, like when we have organization and coalition between members on our street, and our streets link up, and we as a community come together, we know what the problems is.
Wait a minute, ain't that what the block club is for? Didn't y'all say that last week?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and I think that block clubs are where we need to start in terms of coming up with our own solutions. And if we were really about if poverty wasn't a big business, we could eliminate the middleman and just pass everybody out a check. And then you would see the difference. So right now we have all these layers, and like you said, everybody is coming to the community with their own agendas, and and when these agendas are not representative of the people, that's what the problem is. So we need more. Get with your neighbors, and we can all solve our own problems. When we empower ourselves, we are better. We don't need these outside organizations. And if you're going to join an organization, make sure you understand where their funding comes from and where they stand, and make sure that aligns with you, because I will tell you, 9 times out of 10, your concerns align much more closely with your neighbors.
Yes, sir.
All right. So Christina Coleman agrees with you. First of all, thank you, Christina, for your comment. She says block clubs are the community. Like Tanika said, talk to your neighbors, discuss what your issues are, and bring them forth. Block club leaders can meet to then discuss what neighborhood issues are and discuss resolutions.
So
Mumia Abu-Jamal said this: common people around the world have more in common than the people that rule them.
Amen.
So the block clubs is a great starting point, and we have a lot of block clubs here, but a lot of they range. So some block clubs is fierce. You know what I mean? You can't do nothing in that area unless you talk to the block club first. And in others, they just have a block party once a year or whatever. So I think that's an important. And next thing is, I don't think that the community is only people who are suffering. Right, so I think that the community is a range. I don't self-identify as a suffering, low-income individual. You know what I mean? And I'm a member of the community. I live on Warwick off of Bailey. I grew up in Central Park on Manhattan. All right, so I'm as much a member of the community as anybody, but I've been educated at a black college. I have got a good job, made a career for myself, served in the Army, but I'm still a member of the community. Just because I'm not in poverty doesn't mean, and I'm not, you weren't saying this, but I just want people to understand the community, our whole community, if we're just talking East Side, even if just on the East Side, it's some white people in there. It's some Hispanics. It's some, refugees. It's a whole, litany of different people coming together to make this community. So there's a lot of different views and different, places. When I was running for office, one thing I learned is the average person don't care about what's going on with these politics. They don't care about who's running for what organization did what event is coming up next. They care about their immediate house, their street, crime on their block, the street being paved, the crack house across the street, the weeds in the vacant lot never being cut. Like the average person and the overwhelming majority just want a good life for them and their kids. And so to y'all point, the block clubs is a perfect place to start, because those strong block clubs get results in their neighborhoods.
Okay, but I have to say this. See, but what you just said is the crux of the issue. When I say we all are suffering, when you said we are, I don't want you to think that we're all suffering. We are all suffering, and I don't see how. It doesn't matter. I don't care what socioeconomic status you are, from Barack Obama to somebody out here we're all suffering. Our community as a whole is suffering, and we're suffering from the individual mindset. Our integration took us from the collective to the individual, and the problem is people feel like I'm good, or so they think. But until we're all good, ain't none of us good. We're all living a facade. So that is the problem, and that's what we have to break through. Everybody thinking, oh, I'm good, I'm educated. Listen, there's too many educated people around here. It's just too many educated people around here, and that's the problem.
I'm not going to apologize because I don't self-identify as a victim either.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, I think that there are problems in our community. There are organizations that have ill will. There are politicians that have ill will. I live it. Those ill will things affect me and my family, which is one of the biggest families in the city. Okay, so I'm not absolved from caring. That's not what I'm saying. But I don't self-identify as a victim. I look at how are we going to fix this? Not, oh, who's doing this to me? Yes, that's important to identify the problem, but now it's time to identify a solution and start taking steps towards it. But don't nobody really want to do the work. That's the thing people keep missing. There are answers to our problems. It takes a lot of work. Sometimes it takes humble pie. Sometimes it takes building relationships with people you know you don't like. Sometimes it takes working with organizations that you know you don't have ill will, they have ill will or whatever. It takes hard work to make 100 phone calls every night. Because you got it. You say we need to educate folks. Well, educating them isn't just we're having a meeting, everybody come to our meeting, 20 people come, we educating the community. No, educating them means calling them, going door to door, just like when we campaign. Like I said, so I know you know what time it is, but just for everybody else, it's like it's real hard work and you don't get paid for it. Right? You just doing it because you just feel in your soul, in your bones, that you can fix this. You can make things better if you can get people on the same page. But that's hard work, and it's arduous, it's laborious, it's continuous. You got to be consistent. You got to be real. You have to live in the community. So I get all that, but it got to be done. And the only way we can do it, the only way you don't burn out, the only way you don't gas out, get bought off, whatever, is to work together. And we don't do a good enough job of saying, hey, I'm doing this event, Taniqua, can you come support this event? Or, hey, Jane Doe, can you come bring your folks and we going to do this right here, this block club need us,
I wanted to say a couple of things. The victimization idea. That, to me, when you say I don't identify as a victim, if your brother is suffering, then you're suffering. So that means that collective consciousness is what's missing in us unifying. And that's the point. And so if you see somebody that says, I've been, you're looking at them and they saying, look, man, these people did me wrong, right? And you say, well, you're not a victim. What are you talking about?
Or they say people did you wrong and you said, okay, let's figure out how to fix your situation. Right? Let's not dwell in something bad happened to me. Let's go right now and actually take steps to create a positive solution for you and your family.
And this is where it comes to education. Education has nothing to do with a degree you got at a college. Education has something to do with your level of self-awareness, who you are, and what really guides and governs your quality of life. And that is, in the community concept, if my brother suffers, I suffer. If he's a victim, I'm a victim. And because they've been able to divide that's what keeps us in a position that we can't unify. It's only one real issue, and that's unity. Once we understand how to unify, then this thing becomes, like Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, it would be like we were never down. Once you come together, it was like you never apart. But as long as you are apart, trying to talk about coming together, then the only way that happens is that you identify that they are real, true victims out here, and they are true people that are manipulating these people, and in that you are suffering and dealing with that either directly or indirectly. And guess what? You paying for it. And so with that being the case, we are a part of the problem if we don't identify ourselves as a part of the people that's being victimized as a community. You can't be in a community and say the person across the street is miseducated, didn't go to college, suffering, moms is on drugs and all that, and say, well, that don't really, as far as I'm concerned, that's not my issue because I don't identify, because that's not my personal journey.
Yeah,
because the real journey is the journey of the people.
But that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, oh, that person is suffering, I'm good, so they should pull themselves up and figure it out.
Okay.
I'm saying that person is suffering, I'm willing to help them get out of suffering, okay? But they have to have a mindset that they can get out of suffering, that they can fix their problem. Some people of our people, and it has been done to us, so I'm not saying it's their fault, have a mentality where I'm suffering, stuff is going bad, people are exploiting me in my neighborhood, and oh man, it ain't never gonna change.
But the heavy lifting is changing that mindset. Those are the people that get out and change that mindset.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, so I'm saying, if that's how somebody feels, yes, things have been done to you. Yes, our communities have been exploited. Yes, the police over-police our neighborhoods. Yes, they target crime fighting. Yes, they don't put real resources in where we need them. All of that stuff is true. Now, how we gonna fix it? That's my question at the end of the day. We can talk all day, we can post all day, we can rant all day, and now it's like, okay, now what we going to do for you and your family? Now what we going to actually do? You need a job? We could complain that the white man is making it hard for me to get a job, or we could go figure out, bring you to the CAO, we'll do your resume, we'll go find you a job right now. And that's just a different mindset. But we don't have to think alike to work together as a community. We don't have to be homogenous and be like, okay, I see exactly how you see the world, so now we can work together. No, we can see it. 95% different, but we all live together, so that 5%, we can make it happen. It doesn't have to be this, everybody, for us to be unified. Unity, like we talk about a melting pot. We don't need a melting pot. We need a mosaic where you can still be you in this beautiful piece of our community. And I just have a different view, and that's okay, because, again, I love y'all. So we can disagree all day, and when you say, let's go work on this, what do you say? You say, Duncan, we're doing brother to brother? I'm here. Tanique will say, hey, Duncan, we doing this? I'm there. But
what I'm saying is, when we get ready to go in motion, it has to be a unified agenda. We have to understand what we are fighting for, who the we is, and that's the heavy lifting. And in order to achieve that, when we talk about education, it has to be an education. Education without activism is not an education. If it doesn't change your community, it's not an education. And the only way that you truly do that is not by telling people this is how it's done, but causing them to stand up and fight for what's real and what's valuable to them. To empower people to do that is the heavy lifting. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad restored value in people so they will fight for themselves.
So that's the nation. So the nation in our civil rights history, the nation, they had a mentality like you just spoke of, that we've changed the consciousness and the actions will change.
Absolutely.
The Black Power movement had the mindset that we're going to just have you do stuff. We're going to change your actions, then your consciousness will change. Right? So there's different ways to see a movement happen. Again, it doesn't have to be, people against Martin Luther King, people against SNCC, people against black people. I'm talking about black people against the freedom riders, the bus boycotters, SNCC, all of it. Okay, we were our own people in our own communities fighting against our own people trying to make a difference, and we still made progress. So that's what I'm saying. We never gonna have this kind of sweeping, communal spirit that's perfect.
Even in Africa, before all that's happening, we operated culturally different in a lot of degrees.
But when the fight is on,
that's what we're talking about.
And the fight is on. So I hear you. I'm sorry. I know I'm talking a lot, but I just feel like when the fight is on, we will come together. But we have to be proactive. We can't just always be in a state of reacting.
Right, and nobody's saying that.
Right.
Nobody's saying that. What's being said is being able to balance the two. And if we have the idea that this one is less important than the other, or we have the idea that how I see a thing is, if I can't be turned off by my neighbor's behavior, right? Mm-hmm. I have to be turned on by their heart. So I deal with the heart, not the behavior. So we go have a conversation. I'm looking at the situation going, I know you really don't want to be in the condition that you're in. I'm not saying, well, look, it's a way for you to do this. You can pull yourself. No. What's going on with you? What's really happening? And as you go in, you find out, damn, the crack wasn't invented by us. You start seeing that this is a real victimization. This shit, excuse my language. This is really real.
That's right.
That somebody has created this condition. And since you were born into it, until you undo that condition, until you look at that realistic standpoint, thoughts are born out of condition. And and until you change that condition in people, which means getting the bully off the block, getting the bully out the White House, whatever that may be, until you change people's ability just to think freely and be able to be happy within themselves, to be able to say, this is what I'm capable of doing, this is a lost cause. And in order to do that, then all the organization, everything has to be pushed back. And we have to look at people where they're at and say, you know what, let's get this thing going. Just me and you. Let's figure this thing out. Not that, forget about the education I went and got at so-and-so college. Forget about, the good job I got. Let's look at the condition as a whole. How do we get here and how we going to get out of it? And I guarantee you, 85% of it was dictated, not created.
Right.
And when you go to undo it, you can't undo it with 65% do for itself. And then 35% somebody else was responsible for, when really 150% somebody else was responsible for it. So in order for you to get out of it, you got to be self-empowered. You got to look at those people. You got to move those blocks. Like I said last week, fear and love can't live in the same spirit. So if everybody are afraid to fight back, you already got a problem in and of itself.
But that's one beautiful thing about Miss Simmons or Betty Jean, I'm not comparing you. I'm just saying that some people are showing they're not afraid to fight back.
Absolutely.
And that's inspiring to other people who might have thought, you know what, I could do something. And I don't know, though, because, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm ready. But if they see her out there, Jay-Z did an interview about Kanye. I'm going to let you talk. I know I talk a lot. But Jay-Z did an interview about Kanye, and he said, Kanye West is the type of dude to run over the mountain, get shot with 20 arrows, and come back and say, yo, they got arrows. Right? Some people got to be that person to go be the martyr, to go be on the front lines, to go take the brunt of the media, take all the criticism, take the hate, take everything, just so other people can say, oh, she's still standing. Oh, he actually changed his policy. Oh, I could do that. They grew up down the street from me. I could do it too. And so I just appreciate people like her and other folks in the community that's willing to do that, because it ain't easy. You sacrifice a lot. And so we got to support and give love.
But when she started calling out the names, when she started identifying the people, all of a sudden it's stepping on toes of people that are co-signing with these organizations. Mm-hmm. If the council member is over that organization, or you in the organization and she talking about different things that affect your organization, right? How you getting paid, or what your agenda may be, all of a sudden that example becomes that example is a problem now.
Is now jaded. You see what I'm saying? So,
but the we the people, if we're having this conversation, we are aware of people, right? And so we are more accountable. And when we talk about the person that took the middle ground, we know, in fact, what the process is. And by that being the case, we have the right to say, no, you should have went further, because we know. So if I can only give the excuse so far until I'm literally face to face with the danger, and I got to physically do something about it before that was the time. I can sit around and say, yeah, you know what? You did what you had to do. You did what you had to do. You did what you had to do, until it gets in my face. And the point that I'm making is, we have to be that way before that time comes.
Right. And we got to be proactive, because if we gave that person power, if we had given this person real power in the community, paid for their campaign, did whatever, then that person would only be beholden to us. They wouldn't have to listen or even toe that line or play that game.
Right, and this is what we built.
And all I'm going to say is this: when the people have the knowledge and information, and that's all it's ever going to go back to, because like you said, we all want the same things. When the people have the truth, the facts, unfiltered, unadulterated, the people will never be able to be dissuaded to go against their own interests. So that's why Facebook, we need all those things, because we need to know what's going on, and we need that information. And as long as we have the facts speak for themselves, the facts defend themselves, and the facts don't attack. And I think as a people, with that knowledge, we will be empowered.
There it is, y'all. We're going to end on that note. This was Brother to Brother, man. I hope y'all enjoyed it. We'll be back here next Wednesday. Phil Moore, CAO Center. Hopefully the audience and the conversation will grow. People watching and people being a part of it. We need you to be active in the conversation. This is your community. When we say we the people, guess what we're talking about? We talking about children. Until next week, y'all. Hold it down.
Brother to a brother, and then a brother. Brother to a brother, and then another. Each one reach one, teach one, keep one. Brother to a brother, and to a brother. Brother to a brother, and then another. Each one reach one, teach one, keep one. If I need one, tell me, could you be one? Look into the mirror, tell me if you see one. We warriors on a mission and soldiers in recon. Enemy brigades get raided, we decon. Brother to a brother, to a brother, to a brother. Brother to a brother, to a brother, to another. Each one reach one, teach one, keep one. Each one reach one, teach one, keep one. Yo.